I grew up around also know that my name by birth wasn't Blessing, or it's yeah. The name given to me at birth wasn't Blessing. It was Henrietta. I'm trying to just process my thoughts because I'm thinking about many things. And actually, it all started with me thinking about my old name and me wanting to change name again, basically. And then I guess it just developed from there. People around me that grew up around me know that I wasn't given the name Blessing by birth. It was something I got later on. The name the name Blessing was given to me by my granddad, my mother's father. Actually, he gave me the name Blessing, and he gave me an Igbo name called Ugechi Kama. And my mom held those. My mom never registered those names anywhere when she was having a child with my biological father. She always kept them close to her heart because I think it's because, you know, my grandfather gave me the names shortly before he died. So she took them very personal and she made me very aware of the names. And then I joined a church. I joined the church in 2014. And funny enough, that's also where Jeremiah, he joined. He also came to that specific church in 2014 because his brother had a football contract in this city. And that's how we actually met and eventually got together. But in the beginning, when we met each other, was way like it was high and by, you know, because he didn't speak a word of English. Believe it or not, he didn't speak a word of English. And then in 2016, we started talking a bit more. And his English was something different also at that time. He had learned a lot actually by just listening, and the preachings and everything in that place was going on in English. So he also became a translator at some point. So he actually learned very fast, and I feel like he learned pretty well for someone that didn't actually like go to school for it or anything. And in France they don't care about English like that. They don't. We all know that they don't. But yeah, I was just thinking about how life has been since 2020, because 2020, that's when the church, or let me be honest, sect that we were in, that's when it got shut down. And I feel like life has been very interesting since. Like in the church, the head pastor had many weird tendencies, by the way. But one of the things he was doing, he was changing people's name from whatever name that it was to something biblical. But I don't know, for some case with me, maybe because I was also underage at the time, to be honest, I don't know. When it came to me, he consulted my mom, and my mom told him, yeah, my father has given, Blessing this name, Blessing. I call her Blessing at home. She knows that it's her name, but it's not registered anywhere. And then somehow, somewhere, my mom and the pastor agreed on the fact that, yeah, I'm gonna be called Blessing from now on. The pastor pulled me aside into a meeting and told me, and my mom confirmed it, because I also asked her when I got home. I was still living at home at that time. So yeah, that's how my name got changed from Henrietta to Blessing. And I felt more in touch with that name, to be honest. I feel like Blessing is me and I'm Blessing. I don't know how to explain it to you guys. But yeah, also with everything that has just been going on in my life, I feel like I'm a blessing to myself, I felt like my grandfather knew what he was doing. The name is for me, it's for my own life. The reason why I keep thinking about my name, and the reason why is because I want to change my middle name and my surname, because my middle name and my surname has absolutely nothing to do with my mom's side of the family, and has everything to do with my biological father's side of the family, whom I don't talk to, and I'm never gonna talk to. I'm never gonna have a relationship with him, to be honest. That relationship between me and my biological father is something the relationship hasn't been a relationship for a very long time. But what really made me I want nothing to do with him, not even his name, nothing. It was actually when my brother died last year, and we had to have a meeting and sit down as a family and talk. And then the meeting just escalated, where certain people thought it was okay to... I'm trying to be as honest as possible, but at the same time, I don't want to bring anybody in a bad light. But at the same time, this is my YouTube channel, and I want to be very honest. Some grown men tried to actually beat me. The reason why it had gotten to that point is because people have a lot of anger inside of them, first of all. But also, I feel like the circumstances of how my brother died is just is what also triggered people. And I also feel like there's a lot of embarrassment that is involved in it. I want to give you guys like the full story. I don't want to like jump. So basically, my mom and my biological father, they got together, yeah, way back in the 90s. And they had me and came to Denmark. And I was actually born here. But when they came and stuff like that, my biological father was only an active father until I was around 3 or 4. Then after he decided to dip, and that's when my father came into the picture. He is my stepfather, yes, but if you guys hear me say my father, if you guys hear me say my dad and stuff like that in a vlog, I'm talking about my stepdad. There's no way I'm gonna be talking about my biological father, to be honest. There's no way. But then he stepped out of my life when I was about around 3 or 4, because basically, yeah, now I have a dad. Now I have a new dad. And also, when I look at it, I'm just like, maybe he was just there because somehow, somewhere, my mom was still emotionally attached to him. And the moment she got a new man, she probably wasn't as emotionally attached to him, which just made him think, nah, okay. But they had kind of broken up before that anyway. I think also, if I look at the situation, it sounds like it was an on and off situation. But African parents won't admit that. He eventually got a new wife. Let me just say it like that, simply. Eventually got a new wife and kids. But when I was around 3 or 4, he just stopped. He stopped being a father, just in general. My big brother is the son of my biological father. So that's how he's my big brother. And for the past couple of years, the last 10 years of his life, 11 years of his life, he was living with his father. He kind of like, to be honest, he had locked himself in his bedroom for years. He had locked himself in the bedroom for years, and some people on my biological father's side of the family had deemed him crazy. They say that, yeah, they just basically say he's crazy, and some people even say that they found him as a threat, and they feel like he's a threat. Meanwhile, he was actually a very peaceful person. Yes, he was very, you could feel that, mentally and emotionally, it had been difficult for him, which I think is very normal for someone who has just been in one place for 10 years. He wasn't really going out. He wasn't really hanging out with people. He wasn't really interacting with people. Only time he actually went out was to buy his own grocery. He always did that like 30-20 minutes before the shop closed, just to avoid meeting people, actually, just to actually avoid meeting people. And I don't know how because my mom was his stepmom when she first came to Denmark and got pregnant with me and everything. I don't know how my dad managed to get a hold of Edwin, because that was the name of my big brother, Edwin. But for somehow, somewhere, stepdad got a hold of him. And then they started developing a relationship. So, my mom, my dad, and my big brother started developing a relationship. And my big brother started coming to my mom's place more often. And she has been his mom for years. Also because at some point he actually lost his real mom. So she had been his mom for years. And to be honest, she was actually his mom before she was mine, because, when Edwin got to know my mom, I wasn't even born. So they started reconnecting and hanging out again. And that made my mom's ex very mad for some reason. He wasn't really satisfied about that. It bothered him a lot. And then when he died, it just like kind of all crashed. And then when I went to that family meeting, I just made it very clear that, yeah, coming to my brother's funeral, and I'm never dealing with those people again. It has been very hard. I feel like since 2020, I feel like life has been, up and down. I can't really explain it. There has been some really, really great moments, but I feel like the hard moments have been really, really hard. So basically, in 2020, the church got shut down. In that church, or in the sect, to be honest, the way things were going on was very, very weird. But the thing with manipulation and being manipulated and being in an environment where there is like hardcore manipulation going on, and is that it's so difficult. Like, you don't even realize that you're being messed with until it's done. To be honest, you really, that's when you look back, you were like, was I really that blind? Was I really that dumb? Like, and sometimes also, I also have to admit, there are also some things that are happening where you're like, within yourself that, okay, this is not right. This is not right. But because you are used to it and because it's the norm, nobody really says anything. The head pastor at that time would be sitting in a meeting, because I was a part of the workers or whatever. So we'll have a workers meeting. I was an usher at the church at the time. So we'll have a workers meeting, and then certain people that hadn't paid tithes that month be called out and kind of ridiculed and embarrassed, to be honest. It's this type of like, okay, so why didn't you pay your tithe? And you sit there and you know that, okay, this is actually wrong. This is not okay. This is not okay. But at the same time, you just sit there because what you're used to, I guess. That's what he does. That's how he is. Sometimes also there will be some inappropriate sexual jokes. The head pastor, you'll just be like, oh, anyway, he's open, he's cool. Actually, in all honesty, is so inappropriate and so predatory, to be honest. But like, you kind of just got used to it, and it was so weird because it was like a process when you came into the church, and we all knew. To be honest, we all knew you get into that church in the beginning, treat it like a baby. When you want to talk to the head pastor at any time, he gives you time. He's gonna like take you out to eat, and he will also let you choose another person from the church to bring along. So he will give you all the attention. He will basically marinate you in his kindness, because it's not kindness, it's not genuine. There will be a lot of like making you feel good and stuff like that. And I also feel like the fact that most of us, that most of us were young in that church was a red flag. And we were all African. One that was from, we had two. One from Iran, another person that was from Iran or Iraq. I couldn't remember. Most of us, the majority, African, Congolese, and some Ghanaians also. And most of us come from households that are like mine, to be very honest, which are households where you have parents, they have somewhere somehow not been there for you. I have a father that just decided to dip, I think that took a huge toll on my mom because she felt very betrayed, and I had to hear about how angry my mom was at my biological father for years. I had to actually sit her down at the end and tell her, can we not talk about him anymore? I don't have a relationship with him anymore. You don't have a relationship with him anymore. We just stop. And ever since also, she has stopped. Definitely with me, she doesn't mention it to me, and that's all I ask for. But like I said, when you come from a household whereby your parents haven't been there for you, it could also be they have been there physically, but emotionally and mentally, it just hasn't been it. Then this pastor comes along. He's just a listening ear at any time. He's here to help you with your problems. And, he understands you more than your parents do. Stuff like that. It's easy to fall into the hands of someone like that. You're in a situation like that, because the reality is, if I had my dad at home, my mom, and they were there emotionally and mentally and everything, and I could have deep conversations with them and so on. No pastor is gonna the pastor comes here trying to have a deep conversation and so on. I might even be like a little bit weirded, or I might even be a bit creeped out, because I'm just like, I don't need this type of attention from you. I have it at home. My parents listen to me. My parents have time for me. I felt like with my situation personally, I can't speak for everybody that was a member of that church. It's purely me and purely what I think. Purely my analysis that I have made over the years. For me, I would say the fact that I didn't have my father in my life did a huge hole in my heart. That was never really filled, because single mothers try, and they try hard, and I do appreciate what my mom has tried to do. But I feel like single mothers, my situation with my mom, I felt like my mom had a lot of her own issues. And I felt like my mom was very angry at many things, and she had many problems that she herself couldn't process, because African, you're taught that you're not supposed to talk to people about your issues. God forbid you go to therapy. God forbid you actually sit down, talk to a stranger about your issues. You get it. God forbid, you can't do that. So, I feel like she had a lot of her own issues that made her Not really, like she just couldn't be there totally as a mom. I feel like, with my dad being missing and my mom not really with the emotional and mental like support, I wasn't getting that from her. So it was easily, I felt like, for because of that, it was easy for me to fall into a hands of a weird pastor, of a predator, to be honest. When that church ended in 2020, I was actually living on my own. Jeremiah moved in with me. Moved in with me because at the time when the church got shut down, he was living at the brother from the church place, and it just didn't make sense for him to live there anymore. So he moved in with me into my student apartment at that time that the church shut down. Actually, there's a documentary about the church as well. It was actually kind of huge. It was on the biggest channel in Denmark, because that channel is called DR1. Basically, it stands for Denmark's radio. And that channel is also free. To be honest, everybody has that channel. You can download the app for free. You can watch whatever programs that is there free. It was huge. So after that, Jeremiah moved in with me. And then he got a job, and so did I. And then we saved some money and got our new place. I felt like, now that I look back, now today, as I wake up and I'm just reflecting about my life, where I am now and where I was, I just feel like, once we moved from my student apartment into the apartment we just moved from, it kind of got hectic. It did, I think 2 days or a day before we moved, I got let go from the job he had at that time. And the reason why he got let go was because the company he was working for were bought. There were another company bought the company he was working for. So they had to let some people go, had to hire some new people. Every company comes have their own vision and how they wanna do things. Some people even have in mind that they already want to hire. He was definitely let go that the company he was working for was bought. So like when we were moving into that apartment in 2021 in March, we weren't even happy. I don't know if my big sister Jennifer, she clocked it when she came down. I'm happy we weren't like we got the keys, but it's just pressure was just getting worse.
Wow, the pressure is getting worse.
Like we didn't know how we were gonna pay our bills at the end of the month, but he eventually got a job, and then it kind of picked up again. And the reason why also we got a 4-room apartment to start with was because he thought at that time, which is somehow also like kind of naive, and at the same time didn't really know anything else. When in 2014 I was 15, guys, really 15. And Jeremiah is so weird because his whole life grew up in a church. His uncle is a pastor. That his dad was the elder of the church. Like his dad was the elder of the church, in France, the one they have in France. His whole family is involved in this ministry, like, ministry in the church and so on. When he came to Denmark, like it wasn't abnormal for him. Joining a church was new for me, not because I didn't grow up Christian, to be honest. When her and I talk, many times before we hang up, she would literally tell me, remember to pray and etc. So, it's not because I didn't know, or it's not because I always believed in God. That's something my mom has installed in me, to be honest. But he really grew up in the church. So when we came out of it, just thought, yeah, we're gonna get married and we're gonna have kids, and when we have kids, we don't want to find a new apartment. So let's just get one whereby we can live there for many years. But the thing is, at that time, we hadn't explored anything together, in the sense of we were a part of the church. Barely get to travel because it's the head pastor that decides if you're traveling or not, to be honest. If he says you ain't going, you ain't going. Sometimes you might go, then, you get some consequences when you get back. Of course, he had his favorites that could do whatever they wanted. That's another category of people. But, there are certain people, bro, if you just move an inch, you getting suspended. Definitely getting suspended. I got suspended because I cut my hair at the time. I'll insert a picture of me with my short hair. I cut my hair at that time, and I got suspended for that a good 3 months. Couldn't do my function as an usher. But yeah, we thought that's what we wanted. We started traveling together. Then we started hanging out in Copenhagen. Then we started going places. Also, at the same time, we also started discovering more of each other and ourselves. I have to speak for me and say that there were many sides of myself I thought I had lost by being a part of that sect that actually like back. There were also many new sides to myself that I never knew about. Yeah, we then eventually found out, okay, we might not want to live in Aarhus the rest of our lives. At some point, we might want to explore our options in another city, another country, or something. The apartment was very big and expensive, and we kind of felt stuck. Also, because when you want to leave the apartment, you have basically 3 months to quit the apartment. When you're getting into the apartment, you pay a deposit. That deposit doesn't cover for the 3 months you have to quit the apartment. It doesn't cover 2 of the months rent. You have 2 months where you have to pay rent for an apartment you actually don't even live in. We felt stuck in the apartment. Time went by, 2021, we moved in. Time went by, he got a job. We're beginning to get like okay. 22 comes, the thing with my brother happens. Actually, it was just very horrible. It was very horrible to go through. Very horrible, and I'm actually so glad that I don't have to sit at the same table as certain people again. And then I got my job. The beginning, a job is always great. Then I got engaged, which I think was very healthy for me. I think it was so good. Like, I don't know if God knew or Jeremiah knew. God spoke to Jeremiah that he should propose now, because it gave me such a joy and a happiness when it happened. It was such a joyful thing. I was happy I was happy for some time, guys. I was happy for some time. Happy for some time after I got engaged. I was looking at my ring. I was happy. I was happy. But now that I'm reflecting back, if that didn't happen, it would have been very, very difficult. Because shortly after we entered this year, 2023, I quit my job because it was mentally taking a toll on me. And also shortly after Jeremiah's father died. So before that, Maya had gotten fired between Christmas and New Year's. Basically, his last day of work was the 5th of January 2023. So yeah, already like the end of the year, we were already in that same place again. Like, he doesn't have a job, and that is kind of stressful, and etc. etc. Fast forward to February. Jeremiah's big brother calls him Valentine's Day. Actually, it's 14th of February. Calls him on Valentine's Day and tells him that their father is in a coma, and it's so after that. After he called and said he was in a coma, day after, which was the 15th of February, we got another call and we found out that he was dead. In January, we paid the rent on time. In February, before we went to France, we paid the rent late. But we paid the rent way before we found out his dad was in coma or anything. And that was the 14th. Basically called the office and asked them for like the account number so you can transfer the money manually. We just told him we're going to transfer it immediately. We know we're late, so we're just going to transfer it immediately. He was like, cool, there was no issue. We go to France, we come back, and then there's like a letter. There's a letter in like a physical letter in our mailbox that says that on the 24th of February, we got a notice that the house rent wasn't paid.